But the ultimate reason that Jesus came wasn't just to touch the people during those days. He had a mission from day one, and it was to go to the cross. He came to do what no one else could do, to conquer the greatest enemy of all humanity, sin. The entirety of the Old Testament pointed towards a hope that there would one day be a Messiah, a hero figure, a shepherd who would sacrificially bear the brunt and the penalty of our sin. And sure enough, the time came for Jesus to die, and he willingly died on a cross for all of us. It was on a Friday afternoon that Jesus was crucified and placed in a tomb. And the brilliant, hopeful image of a story that seemed to be building into a glorious new kingdom now seemed gone, finished, locked in a permanent grave. Jesus was dead. And it seemed so were the hopes of the whole world. But how many know Sunday morning was coming? And it says in Matthew chapter 28, early on Sunday morning, as the new day was dawning, Mary Magdalene and the other Mary went out to visit the tomb, and suddenly there was a great earthquake. For an angel of the Lord came down from heaven, rolled aside the stone, and sat on it. His face shone like lightning, and his clothing was as white as snow. And the guards shook with fear when they saw him, and they fell into a dead faint. Then the angel spoke to the women. "Don't be afraid," he said. "I know you're looking for Jesus who was crucified. He isn't here. He is risen from the dead, just as he said would happen. Come see where his body was lying, and now go quickly and tell his disciples that he has risen from the dead, and he is going ahead of you to Galilee. You will see him there. Remember what I have told you." The women ran quickly from the tomb, and they were very frightened, but also filled with great joy. And they rushed to give the disciples the angel's message. And as they went, Jesus met them and greeted them. And they ran to him, grasped his feet, and worshiped him. And then Jesus said to them, "Don't be afraid. Go tell my brothers to leave for Galilee, and they will see me there." Woo! This is the ultimate story of a 180 that unleashes those for anyone everywhere. See, Jesus' return provided a pathway for all of us. The cross had canceled the permanent power of sin. The penalty of sin was paid through Jesus' death, and the painful wounds on his body resulted in the possibility of healing, for by his stripes we are healed. Now I want you to see that Jesus' setback was a setup for a comeback. It wasn't just one thing disconnected from the other. It was planned all along. The angel shows up, moves the stone, and Jesus is alive. Every finality of death, the grave, are gone. Jesus did not abandon us. This generation needs to hear that. Jesus did not abandon us. He returned, and he's going to return again someday soon. See, Jesus' comeback offers all of us our own 180 opportunity. Don't miss what happens in this resurrection moment. Now, there's a famous study that a counselor, a psychologist did on human behavior and paying attention. How many of you, let's be honest, you've had a hard time paying attention already since I started talking, okay? It just happens in this day and age. Look, there's a bird. Somebody's crying over there. I heard a cell phone. The little things can take us off on different pathways. Well, this study was intended to show how people miss things in stories. And so there was a video shot of two groups of three people, one with black shirts on, the other with white shirts on. They were passing the ball back and forth, and it was videoed. And then once the video was complete, they brought that video, and they brought in these participants in the study, and they said, "We want to show you how you can pay attention or not pay attention when we want to study you." And they're like, "Great." So the people were like all psyched up to show that they can see things and notice things and pay attention. So they're watching the video as the ball is going back and forth, and the instructor said this. They said, "Count how many times they passed the ball." So they are passing the ball back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. When the video is over, the instructor says, okay, tell me, how many times did they pass the ball? And quite proudly, each of the participants said, 15. And the instructor says, that's right, but did you see the gorilla? Because the people were so focused in on it, they didn't notice that in the actual video, a gorilla was walking through, dancing in the middle of it. So he made them watch the video again, and sure enough, they saw the gorilla going right through the group. Here's the point that I want to make to you today. We can tell the story of Jesus' resurrection and miss something in the middle of it. Based on what you're focused in on, locked in this season of your life, even people that are religious that have come to church their whole life, you might miss something valuable in this story on this day. See, I want you to see 3 things to notice and not miss in the resurrection story of Jesus. The first one is this: Jesus includes a lot of people in his story. He includes a lot of people in his story. I mean, look at it. Right away, you see an angel speaking to the women who are coming to the tomb. These women are really important, and they're included in the story. Not only were they included, they're given instructions. They were the very first preachers of the gospel. So if you're asked the question, can women preach? They're preaching in Matthew chapter 28. Come on, somebody. That's where they're preaching. The first preachers of the gospel were women. But not only that, there's soldiers in the story, people that are kind of bystanders. They're on the job, if you will. They weren't religious people. They were just doing their job and showing up there. And Jesus includes them in the story. And then you see kind of the ripple effect go outward to more and more people. And the disciples, Paul says this later on in 1 Corinthians chapter 15. He says Jesus was seen by Peter and then by the 12. That's the 12 disciples. And after that, he was seen by more than 500 of his followers at one time, most of whom are still alive at that time, though some have died. Then he was seen by James and later by all the apostles. Last of all, as though I had been born at the wrong time, Paul says, I also saw him. Don't miss this fact that Jesus includes you in this story. See, it wasn't just about some mythic God that had an incredible story that is in stained glasses and chapels around the world. And we can all look at that, but miss the fact that he includes you in it. You're in it. Turn to the person next to you and say, you're in the story. His resurrection was meant to be a part of your story. It was supposed to be there. You may feel like you're a long way away, geographically and in life, from the story of Jesus' resurrection. But the power of Jesus, like the gorilla in the illustration, is walking right through this service. Notice Jesus, not just the buildings and the religious movements and the obligations. Notice Jesus today. He's walking your way. 3 things to notice and not miss in the story of the resurrection. Secondly is, it's supernatural. No one can stop the power of God. No one can stop it. There is a very real aspect hidden in this that's hope for all of us today. There's an earthquake, and we could skip right past the fact that there's an earthquake. I'll tell you this, though, I'm probably never going to move to California. Because I don't want to experience an earthquake. An earthquake takes over. Things are moving. You lose your equilibrium. It's overwhelming. You see the supernatural movement of God hit the natural world. And as it comes in, then a stone is moved away and the power of God is seen. And this wasn't just one moment. It's actually activating kind of the supernatural in every moment. Prior to this resurrection moment, earlier in Jesus' story in John chapter 11, we see Jesus raise a guy named Lazarus from the dead. And after he does this, he makes a statement about himself that's not locked in that one moment. It's perpetual all the way into this 2022. He says this, I am the resurrection and the life. Anyone who believes in me will live, even after dying. Everyone who lives in me and believes in me will never, ever die. This is a promise not just for Lazarus, not just for Jesus, but Jesus is the resurrection and life for you and for me. He can resurrect confidence. He can resurrect hope and purpose in a life that has been lost. He is the resurrection and the life for marriages and careers and all who need a new beginning. Can I get an amen to that? You have hope because Jesus is alive.